Everybody, this is Bryan here, the web design educator at Shaw Academy, and you're all extremely welcome to Lesson 7. Sorry, I'll pull up the slide now, I'll get out of Shutterstock. Lesson 7, creating a company website. So you're all extremely welcome to this lesson. So, like I said last week, what we're going to be doing in this lesson is we're going to try and make up for that week where I was sick. So I was sick in week 3, and I'm sure you can see the placeholder video there, trying to detail that. But not to worry, because week 3 was actually just to recap the 6-step design process and throw in the testing and maintenance side to it as well. Let me see now. Let me see what you're seeing. Oh, you can see my workspace. All right, no worries. I'll fix that. Here we go. Monitor 2. There you have it. Now you have the slides. Perfect. All right, thank you for catching that. Who said that? Thank you for that, Wayne. So you're all extremely welcome to the Diploma in Web Design Part 2, Lesson 7, Creating a Company Website. So, in this lesson, we're going to go through the 6-step design process. Like I said, we're going to make up for that. And then we are going to go in, and then I'm going to give you the brief of the client that we are going to be developing a website for. Now, it's going to be a fictional company, but we'll get around to that. We'll get around to that in a bit, and then I'll also show you a preview of the development package that we'll be using to create this website. Then on Thursday. So very quickly, let's just run a quick sound check. I'm sure I haven't got my sound check slide, but I'm sure I've been talking long enough that someone will notice something's wrong if they can't hear me. So hello there, Grant. Hello there, Jeffrey. Hello there, Lewis. Hello there, John, Sue, Michael, Beverly, Wayne, Nicholas, Tassir, Michael, Lisa, Alfred, Mitchell, Paula, Cara, Samuel. Very good. Robert, James, Jeffrey. Hello there, everybody. Hello there, Anne-Marie. Very good. Yes, we are recording, so this will all be up on your dashboard as well to watch it over and over and over. And Maria as well. Hello there. Hello, everybody. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through the 6-step design process. We're going to go through the 6-step design process again, just to recap on everything that we should know when planning our website. So, very quickly, so the first thing we're going to do is I'll just tell you what the 6 steps are. And yes, I did see that. I saw that the audio cut out. So what happened in that other lesson was that the audio cut out about, I think it was about 35 minutes in or so. And then, so we had another 15 minutes of just demoing those applications, and then we went into question time. So what I'll do is I'll talk over that video and I'll attach it onto the end there. So there's actually, 31 minutes. So we went to 31 minutes, but then we got into question time a little bit later, a little bit earlier before 8 o'clock. So what I'll do is I still have the actual screen moving around and everything like that. So what I can do is I can talk over it and I can explain what we were doing. It was really to explain the graphical user interface, which you should all be very aware of now that we've all had plenty of practice using those applications. So, the 6-step design process. So number 1, we had information gathering. That was gathering everything you can about the website and the project. Number 2 was planning, and that was really just getting your basic wireframes down, and also trying to check, and also getting out your sitemap down on paper. Next one down came design, and that wasn't actually the coding yet. The design process was really figuring out your target users and then picking out your color theories and everything like that. And then we move into development. And development is really when we start coding our website. Now the last two steps were testing and delivery, and then maintenance. We're testing, delivery, and then maintenance. Now, I told you that they were for advanced users in the introduction course, but we are now advanced students, so that's what we are going to be doing. So, guys, if you can just give me just 2 seconds there, just 2 seconds, I just want to check something very quickly. Anyway, so here we go. So, step 1, information gathering. So, the first thing we have to figure out is what is the purpose of the site. So what what kind of site is it? Is it a portfolio site? Is it a photo gallery? All those kind of questions come up in the very early stages. Is it a local community notice board, anything like that, or is it just an information, or is it just an information page? That's what is the purpose of the site. Then we ask the client, or we ask ourselves, what are the goals of the site? So what are they trying to achieve? Are they just trying to inform as many people as possible about something? Or is it just for a bit of fun? Are you just doing it just to get something out there on the World Wide Web? Or are you trying to make money? All that kind of questions come in here. Then your target audience. Alright, so then your target audience comes into play. So who are you developing this website for? Is it for teenagers? Is it for working professionals? Is it for everybody? Is it meant to apply to everyone over the age of 13? And so on and so forth, so you can figure that out there. And then, of course, the content. Now, that is really where the gathering part really comes in. Because at the first stage, what you want to do is, after you've asked your client or yourself those first 3 questions, what you're going to start doing is you're going to start asking for the copy. You're going to start asking for all the write-up, anything they can offer you about their company. You're going to be asking for all the you're going to be asking especially for all the images they can give you. Now, the reason why you want all this in the early stage is because when you actually get to the development stage, you want to make sure you have everything ready so you can actually start coding. The biggest problem that a lot of people have is that you fly through the first few steps. You get down, you start writing the code, and then you've got nothing to put on there. Like, you've got nothing to put on there because you're waiting for your client to give you an image or a very important write-up or something like that. And then it just slows down everything and it breaks your flow, it breaks your stride, and then it's just very annoying. So make sure at the very first stage you try to grab everything you can about the project. So then step 2 is planning. Alright, now, the planning process is really where we start sketching our low fidelity wireframes. So you just get out your pen and pencil, or open up any application that you're comfortable using, and you just sketch out what you imagine the website to look like. Because you've just been given all the copy, you now know who the website's for. You can start to see. You start to have an idea of what you might want to do. So you just get out a pen and pencil or whatever application, and you just start writing it all down. So what do you do if the client keeps changing the goals while you are busy with the development? Well, Francois, you work that into your contract with your client. Especially if you're charging for any web development project, you set out terms. So one of the very important things when dealing with a client is setting a deadline. So you say you have to have the copy over to me in 2 weeks, because your time is money. And believe me, it's the first problem that every web designer has when they're starting out, is that they never set a deadline. And I guarantee no one out there will set a proper deadline. You'll think that because it's difficult, to be that kind of person to say, like, make sure you have this for me then. Because what they are doing, they're wasting your time, they're wasting your money, and then they give out to you later because, the development goes on for ages, and then you have to explain, well, you didn't get this over to me. And then you have to say, well, that's why that's not done, and all that kind of stuff. So it just causes a problem down the line. So you have to give your client restrictions. You have to say, all right, so this is the plan. And then after you've been given all the copy, you give the copy back to your client and you get them to sign it. You get them to actually get a pen and sign it with their own hand. Now, you might have to go and meet them to do that. Well, sometimes it's best to actually go meet your client and talk to them face to face, especially for the first stage. But you do want them to sign off on the copy, because what will happen then is that if they want to change the website, well, that's going to take more of your time and you should charge for it. If you spend the time to build a whole web page and then the client wants it all different, well, then they're asking you essentially to build another web page. Yeah? So that's the way it works. So you should be paid for that. And if the client is your boss, well, then they kind of dictate your working times. It's still if the client does keep changing the goals, yeah, I know, I understand what that can be like. I do understand what that can be like. I guess you just have to grit your teeth for that kind of stuff. And what if you work on the internet? It's the same thing, let me see. Do I have anything? See, I don't have anything I can really give you because it would all be confidential. I can probably show you a preview. I'll show you a preview of a document. Actually, that's exactly what I'll do. Just let me write that down. I'll bring out my old hard drive, and I'll get a preview of one of the documents that I would give to one of my clients. Preview of client ENT agreement, AGREEMENT. All right, so I will show that to you on Thursday. I'll just quickly glance through it because it is confidential information. So I'll just take out all the stuff that's important, and I'll just show you how I kind of lay it out. All right, so then you lay out your sitemap. So you're going to need a home page, an about page, a portfolio, a gallery, a contact page. You know, if it's just a typical storefront kind of stuff, but here's the best part, but here's the very important part about drawing out your sitemap. Because you might think, it's a portfolio site. That's not much work at all. That's only a few pages. But if you look at that sitemap, you've already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've got 5 pages. And then when you draw it out like that, then you might realize, well, actually, about could actually be split into 2 sections. What am I talking about? Am I talking about the company, or am I talking about their services? And then you realize another 2 pages. So now you're up to 8 pages. Now you're up to an 8-page website just for something that you think will be quite simple. So it's very good to get these out in the early stages. Now let me see. Galleries could be several types as well. Exactly right, Grant. So it's very important to always be sketching, taking notes during the planning process, because this does all add up. And when you're drawing up your contract and drawing up your invoice and stuff like that, it's great to have all this stuff to hand, because it just makes the process much easier. Now, design. All right. So the design phase. So this is where we start. This is where we actually start getting a better picture of what the site is going to look like. So if you prefer, you can start sketching high fidelity wireframes, but here's the part where you start picking out your color themes. Yes, so now you've got all the information, you've understood everything that you're going to need, and you understand your target audience. So now you're going to pick out a nice color scheme for the website. And at this stage, like I said, you can also start sketching your high fidelity wireframes as well, if you so wish. They're not actually needed that much, but some clients do like to have them, where you take your normal wireframe and then you start filling in all the blanks just so they can see your idea. All right, so that really just depends on what kind of client you have or how controlling they want to be over the project. All right, so the next step is development. Now this is the step that I love, because here's the part where it's time to start coding. Yeah, so a lot of us like to just skip to this step straight away, and then we spend, 3 times as much time as we need doing it, simply because we didn't go through the whole planning process and getting all the stuff together. But this is really where it happens. The development stage is where we take all the information that we've done, and now it's time to write all that code and lay it all out. Now the final 2 steps that I was mentioning. So testing and delivery. So what are you going to do next? So after you finish coding the website and everything's up and you think it's about ready to go live, you never put it live once you're finished. You never put it live without some testing. So there's a bunch of stuff you have to test for. Of course, because it's modern web design, we have to test for responsiveness. Does it flow and fit to the screen upon which it is viewed? And you can do that by resizing your browser window. You open it up on a mobile phone, which will also allow you to test for cross-browser testing. So as advanced web designers, we should really be downloading as many web browsers as we can as well. So you should have Firefox, you should have Chrome, and then you should have Safari, Internet Explorer, Edge. You should try and have them all, because it takes nothing just to open them up and test them out. Now there are online tests for this as well, and I'm sure that we'll see a lot of them coming up into Bryan's design resource group soon enough. But I think the best way to do it is always to do it manually. Yeah, so you can use those to test for all the other browsers that you're not going to get around to testing. But to start with, you should always open it up in at least Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and Internet Explorer, just to make sure it's working. And then, of course, open it up on a mobile phone as well to make sure everything is there as well. Now, you're also going to want to check for accessibility. And that's just making sure that all your icons are showing up correctly. You want to make sure that everything is accessible to all your users depending on how they're using it. And then your code quality. So you also want to check to make sure your code is written properly. So that's really something that you'd know while you're developing your website, to make sure everything's properly nested and everything like that as well. Extremely important. No broken links. Alright, so broken links are extremely bad on the internet, because what is HTML? HTML is hypertext, and hypertext is this ability to link to other documents on the net, on the web. So broken links actually really damage your SEO, because the whole point of the web. The whole point of the web was being able to link to other documents. So if you don't do that properly, you actually do get punished pretty badly for that, especially for stuff like broken images, but especially if you're linking to a site that doesn't exist. That can really damage your SEO. Especially because the biggest part of SEO is actually backlinks. Yeah, so we'll be discussing that when we actually going through SEO for web designers and what that means to you guys. But the biggest benefit, if you were to do nothing with SEO, if you're running an SEO campaign, your biggest thing is to get other websites to link back to you, to get other credible websites to link back to you. Like if you have a backlink from a university, it's worth hundreds of backlinks from just normal websites. So they're the most important part. And of course, usability. Can you use the website? That's, there's no point of having a really beautiful website if you can't use it. So what types of tests would you test for accessibility with people with disabilities? Well, that really depends on how much the people with disabilities need to use your website. So if it's a local community site, you have to make sure it's accessible to everyone in the community. So if it is a local community site, then you're going to want to make sure that it's accessible to the blind. Of course, you're going to have to do that. And to do that, you get a screen reader and you just try to test out the site, or else you find someone in the community who is visually impaired and you get them to test it for you. And that will bring me on to my next slide. I'll get into that in just a second. But here's another thing: load time. So again, this comes back to info gathering, i.e. your target audience. Exactly right, Grant. This does come back to your target audience as well. But your load time is also very important, especially if you're developing locally. So a lot of us will be developing on our local machine. We'll be developing with our plain text editors or with brackets or anything like that. Or even if you're using Dreamweaver, whatever kind of code application you want to use to make, you have to make sure that the load time is good. You want to make sure that that when it goes up on the web, that the person is going to be able to see it in an accessible time. And I'll be posting up resources for you to test that as well. Because don't forget, the web can travel well with fiber optic cables. That means that our information can travel at light speed, because that's what it does. It sends information across the cables using light. But here's the thing. If I host a website off a server here in Ireland, it's going to take longer to load up in India than it is going to take to load up in the UK, simply because there's a further distance between the cables and the difference between the cables connecting them all. And there's tests we can do that for as well, and I'll post that up on our Facebook group as well. Now, I put ... there because there are so many tests. Like it's really a case by case basis. Like you know, because it's your project, you're developing it. You know how it's meant to work, so you'll be testing all that. Yeah. So does that make sense? That like when you're loading this up, you'll be testing all that. Can you check the code quality with W3C? Yes, you can, Wayne. W3C do run a code validator. Now, depending on how advanced your project gets, you'll probably a lot of the time come up with coding errors. Now, if you're coding it yourself from scratch, you really shouldn't be coming up with coding errors, unless you're trying to make some functionality that doesn't really exist, like our image focus in our photo gallery. That's not really meant to be used on images, but it works and it allows us to achieve a certain result. Now, I'm pretty sure that came up valid in W3C, but sometimes you can get invalid responses. But if it's crucial to make your website work, if it's a crucial feature, you can leave that fine. You get a small amount of SEO points for having valid code, but you get knocked down in SEO points if you're writing completely invalid code. So that would be having more than using your H1 tags or your heading tags to style things rather than to dictate headings. That can be very bad, and that's not really. It's not really, you being punished for your SEO. You're just telling the browsers and you're telling the search engines the wrong information. You're saying that this is a header when it's not a header, so they don't know what they're looking at, so they can't really reward you for anything. Now, testing and delivery as well. Testing and delivery as well. So what a very important bit is to give your development to someone who has not used it before and give them a task to perform. Alright, so give your development to someone who has not used it before and give them a task to perform. Now, I'll put up some resources in the student login. The resources that I'm going to put up in the student login are going to be pertaining to the development we're going to make. I like using the Facebook page because those resources change so much. Because you go into one and it doesn't suit everyone. Those resources in Brian's resource page, because there's so many to choose from that I don't want to tie you into one. Whatever I put up on the resource page of the Show Academy thing should really be kind of like the best resources for you to use. They should be the be-all and end-all resources. If I stick up an article, I want it to just stick up there because it's going to change. Yeah, so all those color pickers, all that kind of stuff, there's just too many to choose from. So I'll normally put links. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'll do that. I'll put in a document with some links in it. Okay? Now, a very important part of your testing delivery is to give your development to someone who has not used it before and give them a task to perform. Now, that is extremely important. I don't know if any of you out there watch Silicon Valley. I would highly recommend it because even though it's a zany comedy TV show, but it's got a lot of good methodology behind it. I hope I'm not going to spoil it for anyone, but their big problem was that they developed a great app and they gave it out to other engineers. Yeah, so they developed an app, they're engineers, and they gave it out to other engineers, and all the engineers absolutely loved it. But they weren't the target audience. The target audience was the general public. So of course, when they released to the general public, they got a terrible backlash. The graphical user interface was off, everything like that. So you have to make sure that when you're testing your development, you're testing it as if your target market are testing it. As web designers, web developers, we're pretty handy with computers now. So we're able to just understand that the hamburger menu is where you go to, get a drop down on a mobile device. Not many people can get that. So the best thing to do is give it to a friend who might be in your target market, who hasn't seen the development, who hasn't watched you make it, and give them a task to perform. Like, if you've got a booking calendar on there, if you've got a contact form, it's like, I want you to go onto my site and I want you to go onto this site and I want you to find my contact information and just see how they do. Or I want you to go onto this site and imagine that you want to purchase this product. Can you find this product for me? And then see how they do. Because if they can't get there, well, then you've got a problem. Then you've got a serious problem because if they can't get there, stands to reason a lot of other people won't be able to get there as well. Now, there's the testing and delivery. So, sorry, that's actually meant to say the maintenance. All right, so this is sure I can change that very quickly. M-A-I-N-T-C-E, maintenance. I think that's how you spell maintenance. T-A-I-N-C-E, maintenance. There we go, maintenance. So, maintenance. You want to keep an eye on your previous developments just to make sure they don't fall too far behind the time. All right? So you want to make sure that, so you do want to keep an eye on some of your previous developments and make sure they don't fall too far behind. So the whole thing there is that, say if you developed a website and then all of a sudden, so say if you developed a website back in 2007 and the iPhone came out and then all of a sudden all those websites weren't able to fit to it, if you had just finished development, well, it's not going to reflect very well on you. Now, first of all, you go back to your client and you tell them, the iPhone has come out, you're going to need a responsive website. And thank you, I can see you're all correcting my spelling. Just ignore that for now, I'll fix it up. Yes, I am an absolutely terrible speller. That is the beauty of a computer. Well, maybe not PowerPoint, but it is the beauty of a word editor. But anyway, you do want to make sure that your site is some way up to current standards. Yeah, so if something like the iPhone comes out, if something major comes out, and it is a quick fix, so back in the early days when we could use adaptive web design and you just needed a style sheet just to make sure that all your blocks were 100% on an iPhone, well, something like that would have been a very easy fix back in the day. So you do want to keep an eye on it and just see if you can update it. Now, if it's any of your own personal projects, something that you're just doing pro bono or something you're upkeeping yourself, or if it's part of your portfolio, well, you do want to keep an eye on it and just make sure that it's up to date every so often. All right, so perfect. So I'm after flying through these. Steps. So is there any questions now? Let's take some questions now on these steps. So does anyone have any questions about the planning process, or can anyone think of anything that they might come up against while planning a website? Let's see. Whoop. No, nothing at all. No questions. All right. Well, that's good. Should we look at including a links page? Oh, yes. That's a good question. That's a very good question. So you should actually run a quick competitor analysis, and we'll actually cover that in the SEO section as well. How to actually check what your competitors are doing. What you can do is you can run a backlink check on your competitors. So if you have say an equestrian website, a site for a horse riding school in your local area, what you can do is you can actually run tests. You can actually run a report on your other on the other equestrians in the area and see what sites are linking back to them, because chances are you're going to be able to get a backlink from them as well, and we'll cover that in the SEO class. All right. How do I work out a time schedule? How do I work out a time schedule? I will. At this stage, I do it with experience. I just have a general idea of how long it will take me to build a site. I can't even think if there's a method behind me doing it. I guess just as at your introductory stage, you just have a general idea of how long it will take you to build a page. Maybe a day a page. A day a page with other stuff in between. It's actually quite difficult. I will say that is one of the hardest thing to work out a time schedule. But you should always give yourself a little bit of a grace period just to make sure that you can get it all done. Are there tools to build an automated test? Yes, there are, Raymond. There are a lot of tools to build automated tests. In fact, there's also paid ways that you can run tests as well. And I'll find some resources for you to do that as well. Like I said, I much prefer to just run my own tests and just test it out in a few browsers, because once it works in all the major browsers, you don't really have to worry too much about all the other browsers. Again, let's bring us back to our browser statistics. Yeah, so our browser statistics. So what kind of browser are your users using? So let me just go in here. So let me see. BROWSERSTASTS by country. So again, we're looking at our target audience. So here we go. So if we're looking at our target audience, well, first of all, you're looking at their demographics. So where are your target audience? If you're a small shop in a small village in a coastal town in your country, well then chances are you don't need to hit every single browser out there. You can really optimize for that area. So you can see here this green line up at the very top. Let me zoom in here. That green line is Google Chrome. All right, so there's Google Chrome all the way up there. Let me see that's worldwide now. So you can see that Google Chrome is the most important browser to build to. Yeah, so that's just the way it is, and it is just because it's a fantastic browser. The next one down, we have Firefox. And we have Internet Explorer still on the decline, so you can see that Firefox did overtake Internet Explorer, and Internet Explorer is still on the decline. We've got other, so that's everything else. That's like what you call it, Opera and Edge and stuff like that is still up there. How is IE that high still? Because people keep installing it here in Europe. Microsoft have to give people an option on what browser they want to use. It's an outcome of the browser wars a number of years ago, and now the governments here said that they were taking advantage of their monopoly by forcing Internet Explorer on their users. So now when you boot up a Windows computer, here in Ireland or anywhere in Europe for the first time, as long as you bought it in Europe, what you'll actually have is you'll have an option of which browser you should install. Yeah, but what happens to a lot of people is they just use the Internet Explorer anyway. Is maintenance just to update my data and codes on my website? Yeah, pretty much, Osama. Like especially, it's really on a WordPress site. So on a WordPress site, we're using a lot of plugins. So because as web designers, we can fall into any other CMSs that are out there, and we can apply our skills, because these are scalable skills, and we can apply them to quite a bit, to quite a number of developments. Like you saw, just by learning HTML, a markup language, we're able to adapt that to virtual reality frameworks that were still based on a markup language. HTML, with a little bit of tweaking, you get XML. Because CSS, you don't have to just style HTML with CSS. CSS actually styles any XML language. So you can Google any of the XML languages, and you already know the language to style them all. So they are all scalable skills, and it does scale up like that. But the maintenance is, especially on a WordPress site, it takes nothing to update a WordPress site. You just log in and you just click update all plugins, and you do stuff like that. For your own site, it's really if you're including if you're including any resources you found around the web, Sometimes you might want to update Bootstrap or anything like that. As long as it doesn't mess with your code, you can always test it. Make sure you make a backup, and you can include the latest version of Bootstrap and just see if it messes up with your site. If it doesn't, well then sure, go ahead and use it. Go ahead and use the latest go ahead and use the latest version of your framework. Is there a way to develop a web page that can downgrade itself to be more efficient on older browsers like IE 6 to 8? Yes, there is, Wayne. Yes, there is. I'm in two camps about that. It really depends on what your users are like in your country. When we get to the end of the client brief, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the boilerplate that we're going to work with, and it's going to be it's far heavier than anything you've seen so far, but it's really got everything in there. Now, what that does is, because it's a HTML5 boilerplate, if you're in a browser that can't handle HTML5, it actually gives you up a message where it's like, sorry there, you're using a terrible browser. You're living in the Stone Age. You should download a new browser. Here's a whole range of free browsers that will supercharge your web experience. And that's what this does. And I think that is a good way to do it. I think the best way is, if someone's using Internet Explorer 6, there is no need to use Internet Explorer 6. But yet, there are still people out there using it. I think it's less than 1% of people out there at this stage. But still, there are people using it, and I think it's best to, bring them forward than to let them live in the dark ages. Like the people who do need the browsers that old, like if you don't provide that little warning, what happens is, there's a lot of people out there who are completely computer illiterate. Like, I'm sure people who just cannot use technology. There's people who just it's just terrifying to them. I've got loads of friends who refuse to pick up a smartphone. They still use their button phones. And they prefer to use it because they don't want apps. Like, I personally don't have many apps on my phone. I still use it for texting and calls. The only other thing I really use it for is a flashlight, and I use the browser. But I don't really have that many apps on my phone. I just don't really find the need for them. They just slow down my phone, and they waste my battery. If it wasn't for the browser, I would certainly prefer a push-button phone. But stuff like that, and I'm sure that you have people like that. Alright. How thorough of testing do you typically do when upgrading WordPress and plugins for WordPress? Well, the WordPress plugins are fantastic because they're developed by someone else and they already did the testing for you. So you will notice with WordPress plugins, they'll tell you if it's compatible with your version of WordPress. They've already got all the automatic testing in there. So actually WordPress is a perfect example of automatic testing, because when you try to install a plugin, it will actually have a little warning there saying this plugin is compatible with your version of WordPress, or this plugin is not compatible with your version of WordPress, or this plugin has not been tested with your version of WordPress. So the test has not been tested means that you have to test yourself. You have to install it and see if it breaks your site. But that's the whole point of making backups. Yeah, that's just literally copying and pasting your development folder elsewhere, just so you can always run back to it. How often should you do maintenance? With a WordPress site, I would recommend once every 2 months at the very least, because plugins can update quite quickly, and especially because WordPress has got a serious security flaw. Yeah, so WordPress is considered massively insecure, simply because now it's not actually insecure by default. It's not easy to get into. But what happens is that if you can break into one type of lock, you can break into every type of lock that is the exact same. So if there's one plugin out there on the WordPress site and someone finds a vulnerability in it and they get in, well, then they can get into every website that's using that plugin. So they do keep them update They do update their plugins quite often, and you can turn on automatic updates as well. It's just every so often you do have to log in just to make sure that you're not missing out on any plugins, or some plugins might be updated as well. So you want to make sure that they're still working. Alright, am I going to be doing a part 2 of the WordPress course? What I'm actually doing, James, is I'm trying to build a full WordPress course. That's what I really want right now. I want to have the full WordPress course. I want start to finish, the full month of a full WordPress course, because I think it will be highly beneficial to all my students out there to be able to take these skills and then just, if you have to put a site together nice and quickly, to be able to have the full range of arsenal in front of you. Now, what I would try to do is, just again on that WordPress course, I try to restrict it ever so slightly, where it would be, we'd still be using one type of hosting platform. I'd show you how to install it on your local machine to develop locally, and then we'd pick out one theme. It would most likely be the Elegant Themes the Elegant Themes package, just simply because I've been around, I've tried out everything out there on the theme side of things, and I just think Elegant Themes is just fantastic. Just their site builder, everything like that, and you're able to do so much, and it's such a selling thing as well to be able to give a site over to your customer and say you can use this yourself. Exactly right, Michael. Divi really does rock. Like the click and drag editor with full access to all the code underneath it, and then just add in your own CSS. Like, it's absolutely beautifully built. That is the future of web design. That really is the future of web design. So yes, so that is true, Wayne. It is important not to edit too much of the inherent code of, say, Bootstrap. Um, what you can do. Well, it depends. Wayne, if you download the development version of Bootstrap, well, in that case, you are actually, like, unless you use them. So normally what we do with Bootstrap is we use the minified version, yeah? So we use the minified version, which is meant to just sit there, and it just sits there, and then we add in our own CSS to overwrite it if we like. Another option is to download the development version, and that lays it all nice and neatly so you can edit it yourself. And what happens there is that then becomes your framework. Yeah, so you take that as your boilerplate. So Bootstrap all of a sudden stops being the framework and it becomes your boilerplate. So there are two different ways to use it. Very few people would actually use Bootstrap as a boilerplate, but it is a fantastic CSS JavaScript boilerplate to work from if you do want to go into a full bigger development. All right. So, and yes, oh, sorry, and Grant, fantastic, excellent. Maintenance is a good upsell for your business. Yes, that is something that I certainly did offer all the time. That, and you work it into your price, because web design, I'm sure, has anyone out there got a quote for web design? Hmm? Has anyone out there got a quote for their web design? Got a quote for web design before? Because it is quite expensive. No? No? Did you find it quite expensive? Were you taken aback before you learned a bit of web design about how much it actually cost to get a designer to go ahead and do the whole thing? Because as a 5-page for £999, that's about right. That's about right, Sam. Um, yeah, sometimes it can go up into the thousands. Like, it really can go up into the thousands. You want to build an e-commerce store? That's 4,000. Because not, and even if it doesn't take that much extra work, you're making them money. Yeah, so it's all about that as well. So if you're making your clients more money simply by making the website, if it's an informational page, and it's a coin toss whether it's going to get, well, they are definitely going to get more users because it's a website and people are bound to find it. But especially if they're going to be selling on it and if it's going to be actively making them money, well, then you're going to charge a little bit more. If you're going to allow them to edit the site themselves so they don't have to constantly come back to you to pay you, your rate for an hour of intense coding, and they're able to edit themselves, well, then you're going to charge them a bit more from that as well, because that's a sellable thing. You'll be able to edit this site yourself, and you can also hire me on, say, a yearly basis. You can pay me a few €100 a year to go in and just make sure that the same maintenance there. I'll go in and I'll make sure your plugins are working. I'll go in and make sure there's no viruses there, that kind of stuff. So you can add all of that kind of stuff into your company as well. Can you use Bootstrap and WordPress, and is it useful? Well, Matthew, what you would do is that's if you're creating your own theme in WordPress. Most themes in WordPress will already have Bootstrap there. There's no need to. You wouldn't add Bootstrap to a theme that you've downloaded. You'd just be editing the CSS that's there. So unless you were building your own theme from scratch, well, then of course you can add Bootstrap in. But most themes out there would already be based on Bootstrap anyway, so there's no need to add it in. And if you've downloaded a theme and you're using that theme, you shouldn't be adding in Bootstrap or Skeleton or anything like that, because the framework is already there. All the themes there are already responsive, and you can actually end up breaking them because you're adding in too much other code. So when you download a theme, you want to just edit the things that you need to edit. If you install Bootstrap, remember, Bootstrap changes the whole development project just by including it. You're going to start breaking things. Okay. All right. So, and sorry, I skipped up one thing I just want to run back to. Yes, Wayne, and then it wouldn't update. That is correct. You won't update it, but that's really for. Sorry, I'm going back to the Bootstrap when I said that you can download the development version of Bootstrap and use that as a boilerplate instead. Well, then no, you wouldn't update it, because you are actually. You can call it whatever you want. It's no longer Bootstrap. If you were to download the Bootstrap development version and start editing it, well, then you've got your own framework. So you can call it. What could you call it? Wayne's Frames. There you have it. Yeah. So that's you can use that name for your latest framework. All right. So would you like to hear the client brief? So do we have any more questions, or would we like to walk into the client brief and see what kind of website we're going to be making? Yes, yes. Very good, very good. All right, all right. So what I'm going to do is I am going to give you. Whoop. Let me see. What's this? No, don't need to keep that. Where am I working out of today? Pengu test. Where's my untitled? Oh no. Oh, well, that was lucky. Alright guys, just 2 seconds, just let me make sure that, oh, thank God, I thought I deleted my whole client brief. Anyway, it's all still there, it's all still there. So, this is what I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you guys the plain text edit as well, and then we're going to go into the slides. So this is the client that we're going to be building for, alright? So let me just bring up my, slides to make it easier to read. So, our client is going to be a surf shop called Coral's Surf Shack. Yeah, so CSS, Coral's Surf Shack. Now, Coral's Surf Shack is a surfing centre on the west coast of Ireland. The services they offer are equipment rental, surfing lessons, and surfing camps. And then they're broken into their subsections as well. So you can imagine the question you'd be asking your clients. So first of all, well, you know right off the bat their name because they've contacted you to do their web design, and you just know, and then you probably ask them where their main operations are, and then they say, so they're a surfing centre on the west coast of Ireland. So what kind of services do you offer? Because remember, they don't have a website yet, so you're going to have to find all this information out for yourself. You can't go online. That's something that's very important. That's something that's very important to note. When someone comes to you with an idea for a website, remember you have to ask them as many questions as possible, because they're coming to you to build their website, so you're not going to be able to find information about them online. Something you will also realize when you start developing for clients, that you can't go online and Google some information that you're missing because they're not there yet. Alright, so the services they offer are equipment rental, surfing lessons, surfing camps. And then you ask them more questions. So what kind of equipment do you rent? We rent surfboards and we rent wetsuits, wet gear. What kind of surfing lessons do you have? Group and private. We have adult and children, both for adults and children. We do school tours, and we also offer gift vouchers. So that's something that might have left out, that they offer gift vouchers as well for surfing lessons. What else with your summer camps? Well, they have summer camps. They run 5 days. They run 5-day courses that span a week. And they run for only 2 months of the year. They run for June and July. Nice summer weather here in Ireland. Now, they also have a surf shop attached to their shop. A shop attached to their surf centre, and they offer the following products. They have surfboards, they have surfing accessories, anything that you'd have for surfing, and they have all the wet gear that you'd need here in Ireland. They'd have wetsuits and those head things, those head suits. They'd have gloves and booties, and then of course they've got clothing. Something very important here as well is hoodies, swimming apparel, and footwear for you to wear down on the beach. Now, the purpose of their site. So then you ask them, okay, so now you've got some information about what their site is. So you've got your brain thinking, you've got a better understanding of what kind of business they have. So what is the purpose of their site? So you say, what is the purpose? What do you want this site for? So the purpose of the site is to promote the surfing school and shop, and to allow prospective clients to book a place and get in contact, and to provide location and directions to customers. So they're the three things that you're going to want on the site. You're going to want to be able to promote the surfing school and shop. So they're going to be equal weighting so far. To allow prospective clients to book a place and get in contact. So have a nice log. So now you understand straight away, I'm going to need a form on this site. I'm going to need to be able to take their name, their phone number, their email address, and be able to send it. So now I'm going to need a bit of PHP as well. I will sort that out. And then to provide location and directions. So not only do they want a map, but they also want a way for a user to go onto their site and type in their location and then be given directions to their site as well. So we're going to have to figure out a tool that can do that as well. Now, what are the goals? So once we've got all that stuff coded down to the website, what do they want to do? Well, they want to reach a larger audience. Yes, so they want to reach more people than just their local community in the west coast of Ireland. Well, that's going to happen straight away because they're going to have a website. They want to take in more bookings. So again, that cements in that they are going to need a form to make it nice and easy for their users to make the bookings. And they want to be found on Google. Alright, so that's something we're going to be covering as well in the SEO. That's something we're going to be covering more in the SEO week. Now we know their purpose, we know their goals, we have an idea of what their company is like. So now we ask, well, what kind of people do you have what kind of customers normally come to your surfing center? Who is your target audience? And then they tell you that anyone with an interest in surfing over the age of 16. So they can have walk-ins from 16 and over, and they can all go in there and they rent out their stuff. That's who they normally have coming in. So they have a general interest in surfing. They might have never done it before now, so they just have an interest in it. Schools and local clubs in the surrounding areas, so that's very important as well, because they do school tours, and you can have local clubs as well. So the rugby club down the road might want to try out surfing on a day out. And then also parents in the local area holidaying with children in the local, parents in the local area, or parents on a holiday with their children in the local area. So that's very important as well, because, well, I remember when I was younger, I'd go off to the west coast of Ireland with my parents. Now, my parents would have no interest at all in surfing, but of course I would love to do it. So that is something they would want to target. You would certainly, so you mightn't be targeting, the general parents out there, but you'd be certainly targeting the ones with kids like me, who would be very excited to go out surfing and would have a great holiday out of this. Now, this is when I come in. So then you come in and you start discussing, because a lot of clients won't really know how to lay out their website. So this is something, so if you're lucky, the client will tell you what they want. So you'll say, so how do you want this stuff to be laid out? What kind of information do you want up on the site? Well, normally you'll have to do this work yourself, because the client doesn't have a website, they're not web designers, and they're not really sure how things should be laid out on the web. But just obviously, they're going to want the details about the courses, previous photos of people on the courses, and the price, all displayed there on the page. And that will be the same for each of these sections, yeah? So, the very important bit are photos. A lot of clients out there will not understand the importance of photos on there, and that can be as simple as going out with your iPhone and just or going out with your smartphone and just taking pictures. You don't need a professional camera, but it really helps break down that wall between the user and the screen and then the company. All those images, and even if they're just amateur shots, amateur shots are just as good as those really high quality shots. As long as they don't look, really crappy and low key, as long as they're nice amateur shots, like people having a good time, beautiful colors, stuff like that. It really helps break down that barrier and lets the people know that this is a real product, this is a real company, and you're going to have fun here. And same thing with the equipment. There's no point of listing all the equipment if you're not going to have a photo, but extremely important are the products. I should actually try to pull up that statistic, but the amount of people who will not buy a product if it doesn't have a photo. How many people out there buy products, will go on someplace and try to find a product without a photo, and buy a product right off the bat that didn't show you a picture of the product? I have never bought a product online that I have not got to see a preview of. I've never done that. And it's the same thing with houses as well. If you ever try to rent out a house, I hate going onto our local housing websites here like Daft and myhome.ie, and the people don't put up pictures of the house. I have no idea. They go like, oh, it's a large house. But it's a large house. What are they comparing it to? Is it a large house for here in Dublin, or is it a large house compared to general houses in Ireland? You never know. So photos are extremely important for getting the idea across, and you want to have those as early as possible, because it can really help you lay out the content structure of your site. So, we've got some special features that we've discovered. We're going to need a contact form. We're going to need a way not only to display the location of the club, but we're also going to need to be able to get directions. And because they want to reach a larger audience, they're going to want to need some social media links. So they most likely do have a Facebook page. Every business at this stage should already just have some kind of Facebook page. They might have a group, they might have a page. It might even just be their own personal page. You never know how technically unsuited some people are out there, but they will almost always have some sort of social media page that you're going to want to link onto the site. Now, because they want to reach a larger audience, you're also going to start thinking about SEO. So the social media integration is going to be key. Not only do you want to have a link to your Facebook page, but there's also ways to tell Facebook that this is your page. You're able to verify with Facebook that this is your website, and we'll be covering that. Google Business, extremely important. For any physical business, it takes nothing to set up a Google Business account. And I'll show you what that does now in a second. Actually, I can show you a real demo of what that does. And Google Analytics. So Google Analytics, let Google know who your site is. They can give you analytics to say how many users you have on the site, what your traffic is like, how you can optimize a little bit, and they can also give you some error handling. And we'll be covering all that in the SEO thing as well. Now, missing social media accounts. Now, not only is this massively important for SEO, but it's also a great little extra thing that you can add onto your services as well. Chances are they don't have a LinkedIn company page. Chances are they don't have Google+, Twitter, and Facebook all at the same time. Chances are they only have one or two social media accounts. You should try and get them to set them all up. And if they don't want to do it, you can tell them that you can do it for them. Because it really takes nothing to set up all these social media accounts and link them all together and link them back to the site. There's a few backlinks there, and then you get people talking about them, and it's nice and easy to share around those places, and it all comes back. And of course at a cost. Yes, sorry. I assume that was implied. But yes, certainly at a cost. You know, you can charge, here in Ireland, you can charge up to €110 to set up 4 social media accounts. It's that's pretty much the going rate. You know, if someone asks you for a website and they don't have any of those social media things, you can say, well, I can set all of the social media accounts up for you, and that would be €110 to set them all up and link them all together. And then, of course, you can ask for more money if they want you to keep them updated for them. So they might want to email you, say, their latest post or the latest images, and then it takes you just a few minutes to go in and update all the sites maybe twice a week just to improve their SEO. If they won't use the social media accounts, is there any point in doing it? Yes, there is always a point in doing it, because you never know how your customers are going to find you. So even if you have a social media account that you don't keep updated, that will have a link back to your website. Yes, so not everyone is searching on Google. People will find you through Facebook. People can find you through Twitter. Google Plus, very, very, very few people will find you through Google+, but the whole thing is, it's Google. So, you know, be nice to Google. Google love you going onto the social media account, so that does improve your SEO. But Google find it authoritative, yeah, so it makes your site have a bit more authority. If you only exist as one web page, well then it's kind of like, well, you know, they exist, but I'm not sure who they are. If Google finds your web page, and then they find a Facebook account, a Twitter account, a LinkedIn company page, and a Google Plus page, and it's all saying the same kind of information, and you have just a tiny bit of activity on it, well, all of a sudden Google can assume that you are a genuine website. You're not someone trying to steal everyone's email addresses. You're not someone trying to perform some kind of attack. Yeah, exactly. Google the new Skynet. Exactly. We'll see what that's like in a few years. But yeah, so always set up as many social media accounts as you can. And really, if they're not using it, you should tell them to use it. You should explain how important it is to use these social media accounts and how easy it is to keep them updated. You know, it really does take no time at all to send out a post maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks is going to do wonders for your SEO and getting you noticed and getting people to the site. And of course, it's your website that you're building for them. It's your kind of broadcast. Remember, the most important thing to a web designer is your portfolio. Yeah, the most important thing is to be able to prove your work. Being able to prove your work. So you're going to want to make sure that your work is, you know, doing well around the areas as well. Hootsuite. I haven't heard of that service, Grant. I can't remember what service I'm using. I'm using one that will automatically post to Twitter, Facebook, and which one can I not automatically post to? There's one of those. Not all of them are able to post automatically to all the social medias. Some of them ask you to pay for them. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but but if you want to post that Hootsuite thing to the Facebook page, that would be absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much. Excellent. All right, so, and of course, set up all your social media accounts. So that is what we're going to do. So that is the brief. What I'm going to give you is, I can give you those slides as well, so I'll export those slides as a PNG so you can have them all separated. And I will also give you this, yeah? So what's going to happen on Thursday is I'm going to have some copy written up as well. So I'm going to have various pages set up, and we're going to work out so what we're going to do on Thursday is we're going to discuss what kind of, how our sitemap is going to work, how we're going to lay it out. We're going to decide on a proper way to lay it out. We're going to find a nice color scheme. What is the client's budget? What we're going to do is we're going to say that this is pro bono. All right. So we're going to say that this is pro bono for the time being. Because it's very difficult to do one of these developments when we constrain ourselves with a budget, because you know, we'll all be working at different levels, we'll all be writing at different paces, because your budget is really dictated by how long it's going to take you to build the website, your skill level, your experience level, how much it's going to actually take to build the site. So it's going to cost you guys nothing to actually make this site, except for your time, and of course your time is. Of course, your time here is to learn. So you're actually getting paid in that, But at the end of the day, we'll leave out their budget for the time being, because that can also be argued with your client as well. That can always go up and down. So what I'm going to do, I've been downloading these for ages. I've been trying to get as many of these stock images as possible so we can have a whole bunch of images nice and ready for us to work with. So I'll just keep downloading these. So do we have any questions so far on the development, or any thoughts? Something much better, any thoughts on the development? And then I'll go in. I'll just finish downloading these last 4 images, and then I'll go in and I'll show you what I meant by the Google business page. So, are there any any questions there on the development, or any thoughts? Won't there be expenses like a domain name? Not for this project, but those expenses are handled by your client. Yeah. So what you do is you give them, well, what you do is you say, do you have a hosting account? Do you have a domain name? Because a lot of people will actually go out there and buy themselves a hosting account, will buy themselves a domain name, try to set up a website, fail, and then go and hire a web developer. Or they'll think of a domain name, they'll go out and buy it nice and quickly. If they don't have a domain name, you go out and you find out what kind of domain name they want, you do the research, and then you charge them for setting it up for them. Now what you should do is always be good in this sense, and do set it up in their name. You know, make sure you get the cash, and then you set it up in their name. You just fill out all the details for them, and then you set it up for them. So let me see. This is just a project for us. There are no costs incurred. Exactly right. Exactly right. A fun thing might to keep track of the development so we can get a good understanding of the time frame development. Very good, Sam. Very, very good. And that is actually something we should do. Let me see if I can find out a good way for you guys to keep track of it. If you can, well, everyone out there, you should really try to keep control of how long it will actually take you to make this development. So once you've got all the copy, once you've got all the images and everything like that, well then I'd say the best thing would leave it up to you guys to track how much time it takes to do it, and you should be able to work it out quite easily when we actually get into Thursday class, and then after when you're making the project your own. Does the client pay for their own web hosting? Yes, Sue. Yes, they should pay for their own web hosting. What you do want to do is you want to make sure that everything is given to the client. So you never actually make something in advance. You never take what I do is I ask for 50% up front. Right, that's just my method. I give a quote, I draw up a contract, I draw up an agreement, and then I ask for 50% up front before I even start, before I even touch the development. Because a lot of the time, that happens all the time, where someone builds a full project and then it's up there on the web and the person backs out. Yeah. Now the domain is theirs, and if you're being too good and you've made them the domain and you put it in their name and you don't have access to it anymore, well then you're left with nothing. You know, then you have to go to small claims courts and everything like that. So you should always work out what your costs are and take that up front. And markup on a website is normally about 50%, guys. So you normally try to take your costs up front. Is it worth getting a web hosting server and charge a client for it monthly? I wouldn't say so. I actually wouldn't say so. That it's worth hosting it yourself, because what happens if the host goes down? If the host goes down, it's your problem. It's your own personal problem. Otherwise, if you build a site for them and you get a domain for them and you get a hosting account with, say, GoDaddy or GatorHost, and that goes down, well then it's GoDaddy's fault. It's GoDaddy's problem, or it's GatorHost's problem. And your client will have to call you up and say that their website is down, and you say, oh well, you'll have to call GoDaddy about that. That's who your server provider is. You have nothing to do with that. And they'll say, oh, can you call them for me? And it's like, well, yeah, I can, but I've got a lot of work to do. And then they say, well, listen, I can pay you for your time. And then it's like, all right, €30. And there you have it. You go on a phone call, you call up GoDaddy, and with their excellent customer support, they do it all for you. And then you sit back and it's easiest €30 you've ever made. So let me see. You could try to affiliate yourself with a local hosting service and get a little kickback if your clients join them. That is if you have a local hosting service. For stuff like GoDaddy and GatorHost, they're just so massive that it's very difficult to get very good deals out of them, just because they are so massive and they're performing so well. So there we have it. So I think I've got all my images now. Let's just quickly run through them just to make sure that's downloaded. Done. Perfect. Excellent. So yes, so Shutterstock Shutterstock is actually a great place for all your stock photographs. But like I said, the best thing for actual photographs is for you to take them yourself. Yeah, because it does make yourself unique. Especially as web designers, you are going to start to notice this much more. You are going to start to see. Ooh, it's finally here. So let's see. So here is a way for you to test a website. I don't trust this. I really don't trust this because I don't think my website should be getting 7.3. So I've got an 8.9 on my accessibility, so that's pretty good. I've got a 7.5 on experience. I don't know how they can do that. 4.3 on marketing. That's not bad because I wasn't really trying to broadcast it out too much. I prefer working on word of mouth. And technology. And 7.9. Ooh, I've fallen behind on my technology. Well, I'm going to have to update that as well again. So let me just quickly show you what I meant by Google Business. Now, who has a Google Business account that I know of? Anabio, ANABIO.ie. This is what a Google Business account does. Do you see this thing here on the right? That is a Google Business account. That is what happens there. So all of a sudden, if someone searches for your client directly, well then that's what you'll get. Yeah, you'll get this nice blurb on the right. It will show you a map. It will show you some outside images, show them the logo, tell you who they are, and so it's for people who don't want to have to go into the site. So if someone's looking for a phone number, if someone's looking for a phone number for your business, well then they get it straight away. Because if that person is looking for a phone number, well then they are a very good client. They're the people who are looking to get in contact to come in and purchase from you or to come in and do business with you. So you want to provide that information straight away. Like, getting someone who's looking for their phone number to come to your website and try to find the number and click someplace else, it's far more beneficial in that case because that's someone who's looking to do business, to provide that information to them straight away, even if they never click into your website. It's far more beneficial to the company, and plus this is all tracked by Google Analytics. So say if you had no one entering the website, if you had absolutely no one, but still they were getting a lot of business because of their Google Plus page, and you can show your clients that in the Google Analytics as well. And yes, Samuel. So you actually would get that's actually a very interesting thought, Samuel, because my mind's gone off on another tangent there. Samuel says, wouldn't that also play well for SEO, using your own imagery? And I think it would. I think it would because Google has done some fantastic work with image recognition. I'm not sure if you saw Google's Dreamscape. Google, DREAM. Dreamscope. Yes, terrifying images when they allowed the Google image recognition, pattern recognition to dream. Yeah, so they turned it on itself. They didn't give it a limit, and you can see all the images that they're trying to work out. So you can see just how intrinsic it is, like trying to find. You can see what kind of patterns it turns out with. Yeah, so it's absolutely amazing what it can do. So there's Dreamscape and all that kind of stuff as well. All right. So of course, Show Academy. Yes, so that's very important. Make sure that your image has the alts completed. All of that kind of stuff is yeah, Marcus. Might have to take that out. There might be a small jump in the recording. Anyway, Google, not very cool, Google. Anyway, but here's a pingdom. Yeah, so here's a pingdom here. Pingdom website speed test. So you can actually test how long it's actually going to take to get there. So let's actually just test Show Academy. So I know that our servers would most likely be in Germany, here in Europe. So let's see how long it will take to get to Sweden, and then we'll test how long it will take to get to California. So load time. Oh, we're climbing up the load time. So here we go. Faster than 41% of tested sites. Not too bad, not too bad. Tested from Dallas. Okay. All right. So now let's try another one. Let's try and go to where would be further. I'd say California, West Coast USA. 1.53. Ooh, faster than 81% of sites. So yeah, so you can see the massive difference it makes depending on where your website is located and where your website is hosted. Now guys, something else that I should really point out to you at this stage, try the alt roads. I'll try that as well, yeah. So something else you should really try out. Sorry, I thought it would give me that option. I can't test it from there. This is just a few options there, but I'm sure that you can purchase stuff like that. It just gives me a few things there. We'll try Australia as well. When you buy a hosting package, I will show you something. GoDaddy. Let's go in here. I'll show you this as well. Something that's very important. Who out there is European? Can I ask you who out there is European? We'll go for yes for Europeans, no if you're outside of Europe. All right. Okay, so we have a lot of Europeans here. Well, this is going to be very important to you guys. Um, if you're European, you might be very aware of how, well, you mightn't be yet, but it's very important to keep your data inside the EU. We've just started up a new agreement with the USA. We've just started up another new agreement with the USA, the Shield Agreement, I think it's called. I don't think it's going to hold up. It's holding up for now, but I think your best bet is actually to keep your data here in Europe so you don't have to migrate it later. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. There's a lot of new procedures. You know what the world is like at the moment. So the best thing to do would be to keep it in mainland Europe. So let me just sign in here and just check to see if this one has it as well. So if I go into my web hosting, you will be able to, because what happened was GoDaddy kept everything in the safe harbor. We used to have this thing called the safe harbor agreement. Yeah, we used to have the safe harbor agreement, which Edward Snowden showed did not mean anything. It showed that all the governments were stealing data left, right, and center. So what happened was that everyone's data had to be brought all the way back to Europe. And if you're hosting data outside of Europe, you are breaking European law. So especially if you're holding, if your users give you usernames, if they give you email addresses, phone numbers, passwords, you have to protect that data. You know, that's an asset. And I might have said it to you guys, maybe it was my introduction students, but data is the biggest, it is the biggest commodity on the web at the moment. You know, like grabbing data, an email address has a tangible value on the web. Yeah, an email address is worth point something of a cent. That's just what it is. A name and an email address is worth a little bit more. A name and an email address and a phone number is worth considerably more. So that is something you have to be aware of. And it's worth money because it's worth something. So you have to protect it. So let me see now. Where is this? So here we go. Data center region. You see? Europe. So if you are European and you set up a hosting account, you should make sure that your data hosting center is here in Europe. You want to make sure it's not in the USA, it's not outside of Europe. You want to hold it here. It's just going to cause you a lot of heartache later on. And especially because if you're here in Europe and especially if most of your users are going to be here in Europe because you're setting up a website here in Europe, well then wouldn't it not be far more beneficial to have your users closest to the server? There's no point in trying to get in sending all your data all those millions of miles, all those thousands of miles underneath the Atlantic on those cables when they can get all their information from someplace here in someplace here in Europe, like Germany or Sweden or something like that. So yeah, and just be aware that this does that you can only, well, with GoDaddy you can only change it once, and then it's going to cost you money if you want to change it again. So I think typically GoDaddy should be set to North America by default. It's normally set there by default. If you're setting up a site that will be used globally, well then I would still say keep your data here in Europe. You know, even if you're American or if you're in Asia, I would actually I'm not too sure about data law in Asia, but Europe has very, very strict data laws. Like the people here very, very much, because we have so many countries trying to keep trying to be friendly with each other. Yeah, because we got so many countries trying to stay friendly with each other. We have to have all these agreements to make sure that we're not all messing each other up. So we do have very strong data protection laws here. So chances are, I'm pretty sure that all Americans don't have any problem with their data being in Europe, but Europeans certainly do have trouble with their data being in America, especially people like Sweden. They've got excellent privacy laws there. I would say, honestly, guys, I would say the best place to keep your data is for the moment in Europe. As long as we have the European Union, I'd say the best place to keep it is in Europe. Yeah, it's the best place to keep your data would be in Europe. It's just, we've got tighter laws here, and one government solely cannot change it. So when we say that you can't share your email addresses, it takes a lot of countries. We have to get all the member states to agree if we want to change that. In most of other places, you've got, it comes down to just a few people who have all got pretty much the same agenda, and they're able to change the law nice and quickly. Here, it's nice and sticky, and it actually takes a while to change things over here. All right. So on the next lesson, so what will happen tomorrow? So tomorrow by 7 p.m. So tomorrow by 7 p.m. I'll have all this information up. I'll stick it up early as I can on the Facebook groups, but it will also be all available under your resources section on the Show Academy dashboard. And you can start working straight away if you like. And the next thing I'm going to show you, sorry, we are going to be going on just a little while because what I'm trying to do is, you might have noticed I'm speaking a little bit faster as well because I want to try to merge all that week where I was sick. I'm trying to merge that in here as well. So yes, that's all done there. Next thing I'll show you just before going next. So sorry, if you are in Europe, if you are so you're from South Africa. If we want to use Europe to host, won't the latency affect load time? It shouldn't affect it that much. It shouldn't affect it that much, Mitchell. The question is, do you have an option to host it in South Africa? That is the big question. I could imagine. What is the weather like in South Africa? What is your temperature like down there? Because I know that we don't normally have data centers close. You like to have data centers hot, 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 says Mitchell. Well, then chances are you don't have many centers, because they require a lot of cooling fluid. Yeah, the data centers require quite a lot of cooling fluid, so you like to try to keep them as far north or as far south as possible, because therefore it costs less to run them. I'll show you that very quickly. Facebook, oh, that was it. What did I search there? Facebook server Antarctica. Like, Facebook has really gotten around this by building a data center out in Antarctica to save on all that cooling fluid, because there's no need to use it. Just like how McDonald's bought that island to store all their food, where they don't have to pay for any electricity to keep it cold, because it's minus whatever it is all year round. So let me see. Data center map South Africa. Thank you for that, Nicholas. Let's take a look. So you got 4 in Cape Town, you got 11 in Johannesburg, 1 in Port Elizabeth, one in Midrand, and 2 in Durban. All right. Well, that's good. So let's see. Well, then I say you can use these guys then. I say you can use any one of those. But remember, you also want a good data, because remember, like, if you can have a data center right beside you, I wouldn't really trust data centers that much here in Ireland, because we're still working our way up. We've got great technology here, we've got great fiber optic broadband, all that kind of stuff. But for a data center, we're not really there yet. We haven't had a lot of investment in all those data centers. We're having one soon. Facebook are opening up a data center, and then everything will start taking off. But I wouldn't trust it yet until Facebook comes in and builds all that, and they start upping the technology, and we start keeping up with global standards. I'd hold off on it. I'd much prefer to go with a proven, tested method. So I'd much rather have my website take an extra second to load up if it's going to load up every time. So let's see. All right. Yeah, so there are going to be hiccups with the whole Brexit thing. We'll see how that goes. I still not. I've been out of the loop on that. I don't know what the story is there at the moment. But there are going to be problems with EU law, with Britain and EU law, depending on what. It just depends on what kind of data that the British government will want to keep hold of. But then again, the British government have been pretty good with keeping things under wrap, and they do have personal data, privacy protection, all that kind of stuff. The standard anyway for these modern times. So let me just see. Let me see, Wayne. Oh, let's take a look. Thank you. Thank you for that, Wayne. Let's take a look here. Fantastic resource, Wayne. Fantastic. That's on the Facebook. I will certainly. Now, that is a resource to behold. Now, data protection laws of the world. So, heavy, robust. So we've got all great protection laws. I honestly don't think that the USA should be red. Who are they protecting the data from is the big question. Brazil, limited, yeah. Russia, moderate, acceptable, yeah. South Africa, a lot of places grey in Africa, but you have South Africa there, which is moderate as well. Let me see, where's I wish there was just an extra level. I wish they would just go. I don't think all those reds should be equivalent. I think there should be at least one more tier of red to show how strict things are. Like there's places in, is it Sweden? I'm pretty sure it's Sweden. If you want to set up a very secure site, I'm pretty sure it's Sweden, who just tell governments to go someplace else. They don't accept court orders and stuff like that. There's certain places set up protected domains. Yeah, you'll be able to do your own research on that, but there are places where you can set up websites where their governments are very, very strict on data security, and they do not give your data to other governments. You know, governments really weigh down on them, but they don't break for that kind of stuff. I can check EU regulations on the left. Fantastic. Oh, very beautiful experience here. Ah, very nice indeed. Can I zoom in? Yep, perfect. That is very nicely done. I wonder what it's built with. Let's take a look. So, web hosting provider. So their web hosting provider is Codero. Codero. They got SSL, that's fine. Frameworks, J2EE, JavaScript Platform, Enterprise Edition, JEE, Java EE. So this is a Java application more than anything else. You can see that it's really built on jQuery, and they've got the jQuery UI in there as well. Yeah, mobile standard, document standards, HTML5 boiler, and oh, look at this, because this is actually where I was going to go to next. How handy. HTML5 boilerplate. So let me show you what we're going to be using. So HTML5 boilerplate. Alright, so here it is. The world's most popular front-end template. So let's take a look at this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to download the standard one anyway. And what I'll do is I'll extract that, show in folder. And I shall extract you. Right. So you can see, so what I'm also going to do, so you'll also have these images to work with as well. We're going to be using these images in our project. And then on the Thursday class, we're going to have to optimize them because they are all very heavy at the moment. But let's just extract this to here. What I will do is I will view this as a details. So as you can see, my images here are very, very large. Like that one there is 19,000 KB. That's just not going to do at all for loading up on a website. Which one is that there? Let's take a look again. So boom, and then we will extra large icons. Where is that one? I can't see where I'm looking. Ah, so it's that one there. It's very large. That's a very large image. So we're going to have to go into our image editing programs. We'll go online and we'll find ways to optimize these. And you can also see I've got some EPS stuff here as well for us to edit. And there is also some vector. So there are my vectors there as well that we'll be able to edit as well. Alright, so here's my HTML5 boilerplate. Have you extracted yet? Extract all. So there must be a dialog that I can't see. There it is. It's behind my chat box. Let me cancel one of these and extract the other one. Perfect. What I use is normally I will resize the images myself, and then I'll run it through something like so I will run it through something like a JPEG. PNG compressor. I'll run it through normally online stuff like this, you know, because there is actually fierce competition. There's actually fierce competition with all these with all these online shrinkers. So you can get like PDF, like any PDFs you get from me. I throw them into one of these. I throw most of them into one of these, depending on how well I want the images to turn out. But if you have like a PDF that's over 60 megabytes, you can get it down to just 3 when you throw it onto an online PDF compressor. But this is something that I would use, and you can just see the difference here. So that's 57 kilobytes gone down to 15 KB. So you can see the massive. So you might be able to notice that there is a slight difference between the colors of black. This one is, well, actually, this one's actually got a nicer shade of black here. This one's a tiny bit more detailed, but that's the kind of stuff that we have there. Dreamweaver can compress images as well. I didn't know that. That's very handy as well. But sure, there's loads of stuff that we can use. So you can use Photoshop. You can use so much stuff to compress your images. I just prefer just to use the online methods because they're always up to date and they're always being highly competitive. Especially when you use them a lot, you start to notice the patterns of which ones are taking the top place as well. All right. Okay. What is a good rule of thumb? My good rule of thumb is because this just takes a few seconds. Let's just see if I've got a PNG in here. .png. So, which one of these? Yeah. So my penguin that we made. Whoop, come here. Let me open file location. So let's take a quick look. I've got a penguin here, so this mightn't shrink all too much. It's already 127 KB. So here's my penguin. Let's drop him in here, and we'll see how small he gets. So he's 129.4 KB. 4812, a third of the size. Yeah, so a third of the size. Let's see what he looks like, and we'll take a look. So here's my penguin clip art. Let's open them up side by side with my original penguin. Open you up as well. Oh, I may have two things. Sorry, I'm just going to close down my slideshow. Save it. Close down a few of these applications. Let it load up a little quicker. So while we're letting that load up, I'll also open up brackets. So there's it's penguin. Whoop, come here. Where's my other one? Ah, perfect. Now, which one is which? There. So one of those is 4 times the size of the other one. Which one is it? I can't tell. This one is the compressed one. The one on the right is compressed. Yeah, so you can see a slight difference when they're side by side, but well, I can see a slight difference side by side. I'm not sure if you're able to see it in your Citrix system, but I can see a definite, just a very slight difference in the color variation side by side. But really, just look at that for it to come out with an image the third of the size of its original size. That is certainly an acceptable loss in quality, because there, as far as you can see, there's a very, very small loss in quality. Like if I showed you that image and then I quickly switched it out without telling you for that image, you would not notice that there was a difference in images. You really wouldn't. Yeah. So as you can see, you just throw it into one of those and you just open up and you check it. Same thing with those PDF compressors as well. You can throw it in and then you take it out, because what that PDF compressor does, it normally takes all the images inside your PDF, it turns it to JPEG, it turns it to lossy quality, so it will take away all those kind of stuff, because a PDF, a portable document format, and those things will actually, because you're not going to be growing them up really big, because they're meant to be a set size, a JPEG works perfect for there. Even if you've got text, even if it's got all that kind of stuff, it just works out quite well. Alright, so now let's take a quick look at our boilerplate. Let's close down all this kind of stuff. Up. And, yep, gone as well. Alright, so let me just bring up brackets, just so you can have a preview of what we're going to be working on. So, brackets. And I'll load in my development folder as well. So there that is. Where is my HTML5 boilerplate? So there we have it. So here we go. So I'll just click and drag this in here so we can use it. There we have it. I'll close you. Alright, so HTML5 boilerplate. So actually I'll show you the file structure first of all. So as you can see, there's a lot more files in here. Now we won't be using most of these, but they've got a whole bunch of stuff in here, which is nice and easy for us to work with just as a starting point. In this day and age, you would on a very, very rare occasion would you ever have to make all of these files yourself. You'd almost always have a boilerplate. There's just like it's a waste of time to have to create all this folder structure, to create all of these files, to create all of these separate things, and then add them in just so you can start your project. It's always far more beneficial to start with a boilerplate, because everything's already laid out. You've got your favicon.ico, and it's got all the stuff already written there for you. So let's just take a quick look. If I go into my index.html, where are you? Index.html. So as you can see, it's already got everything written in, and more stuff than we've actually been working with. So you can see it's got absolutely everything. It's got absolutely everything. So that is the starting point as our boilerplate for HTML5. And do you see this here? Yep. So if less than IE8, so if the browser that you're using is less than IE8, which means they can't handle HTML5, well then you display a browser update. You're using an outdated browser. Please upgrade your browser, and that actually brings you to this beautiful website here, browserhappy.com. Yeah, so that's an error handling for people who can't use HTML5, because especially if you are using HTML5, you really want to do this kind of stuff. You can't really use a creative boilerplate for WordPress. What you do is you grab a WordPress template. I just want to show you this website first, and then I'll show you the WordPress template that you can grab as well. So this is Browse Happy. So if someone was in IE8, they'd be brought to this website here. Yeah, and you can see what it's offering. It's just saying like you can use the same browser that you're using. It's just just get the better one. Just get the most we're we're at version 11 of Internet Explorer. We're at latest version. We're at 30 version 38 of Edge. That seems pretty far down the line, considering it's one of the newer browsers. Safari, Mozilla, and Google Chrome. So yeah, in order of usefulness, yeah, I would actually yes, I would fully agree with that, Wayne. I really would fully agree with that. Google Chrome, Mozilla, then Safari, then Opera. Yeah, yeah, Opera is definitely go ahead of Microsoft Edge and Internet Explorer. I certainly would. Certainly would consider that as well. So if any of you out there are looking to create your WordPress theme, what you can do is just WordPress theme boiler plate. Roots. That's the one that I use. So Roots is well, sorry, let's see. Well, the other ones have climbed the Google rankings on it. That's very cluttered for me to read. Sophisticated WordPress development. Again, yeah, fine. Any one of these three, I actually use Roots myself. I like Roots. I don't ask me why. I've just been used to using it. You can just download it, and you can just download the Roots project structure. Now it's actually quite different to develop a WordPress theme. It actually is quite different to develop a WordPress theme, but yeah, but it works. Plus, you'll also need a server to run it because you need PHP as well. So there you have it. So there's all the parts of the of a WordPress theme there. How can you test your website on Safari? Do you mean how do you access the developer tools? Is that what you're asking, Taysir? Taysir. Yes. There is a way to activate it. I'll actually just Google it now. ACTIV8 developer tools in SAFARI. I actually don't have developer tools activated in my own Safari because I rarely use it. I just go in there just to see what my page looks like. You have to show develop menu in menu bar found in Safari's preferences under the advanced pane. I'll actually go in just so you can see the image there, so you can have it there. So you have to go into Safari's settings, then you go to the advanced pane, and then you find, where is it then? Yeah. Anyway, if you Google it, you'll be able to find. Oh yeah, sorry, bottom. Show developer menu in menu bar. Yep. Ooh, that's actually a nice. Have I showed you that plugin before? You know that this is an image, and I can actually select the text in the image. If you hover over the text, it's what is this plugin that I'm using? It's Nefalta, I think. Nimbus. No, not Nimbus. I thought it was Nefalta. Yeah, NAFTA. If you want to be able to no, it's NAFTA allows you to select text. It's like if any of you have an Android device, you might be very well aware that you're able to take, images of you're able to use your phone to take a picture of a business card, then it will translate that business card into normal text, so it will suck in the phone number, the name, the email address, stuff like that. Well, this is something that I use. It's Project NAFTA, NAPTHA, and what that allows you to do is, if there's text inside an image, you're able to actually select the text. It won't always work perfect, as you can see. As you can see, it's adding an extra L. It's adding an L there, but it's perfect, especially when you got a lot of text. OCR, yes, OCR is the one for the Android, but actually is So Project NAPTHA. It's especially useful when people insist on sending you screenshots of things that you are going to have to type out all the text. That's actually when I first found it, when people kept sending me screenshots of documents and screenshots of everything else when I'd be trying to edit it. So I needed some way, rather than having to type everything out myself, I needed some way to be able to select the images and the text. I knew OCR existed, so I was able to find something on Chrome, which is Project NAPTHA. Project NAF. PTHA. I'm not really sure how you pronounce that. I've been called Nefalta, but I know that's not correct at all. NAPTA. NAFTA? PTH. I'm not sure how I know PH is F, but PTH I'm not really sure. NAPTA. NAPTA? Alright, NAPTA. We'll go with NAPTA. Thank you for that, Robert. All right, perfect. So let's take a look. So that is our boilerplate there. So you can see all that kind of stuff there. And then you can add all your stuff there. So let's open this up and just take a quick look. So let's just get a live preview. So that's all what that code does. All it does is just prints out this stuff here. Hello world, this is a HTML5 boilerplate. And let me just run a quick test. Can I run? I can't really run tests because it's not live on the web. I'll see if I can set one of those up. Anyway, for Thursday's class, if we can run a cross-browser test using one of those things on there. And then, of course, it's got everything there. It's got everything there for you to, once you've got your Google Analytics set up, you just throw it in. Of course, if you're not using any of this, all you do is just delete it out and you leave it out. So that's all that kind of stuff there. And as you can see, it's got everything. So it's got the fave icon already set up for you. And it's got the 404 error. Let's see if that works. Does that work for us? Index. Cannot get. What does my 404 error tell me? Well, we'll have to test that out. We'll have to test that out properly. But the 404 error, guys, is what happens when, when you go to the wrong page. You should never be brought to, you cannot access this. You should never be brought to something like that. You should always have some. You should always keep them inside the site. Never have to make them go up to the URL to type in the domain name again. Normalize is something else as well. So normalize is something we'll be talking about later on. Normalize. So it standardizes. So what does that say? It helps browsers render all elements more consistently and in line with modern standards. It precisely targets only the styles that need normalizing. So I say that's going to sort stuff out like lines that aren't properly rounded, or boxes that are trying to add a little bit too much rounding and stuff like that. Oh yeah, I was trying to actually misspell it. I was trying to misspell that web page to bring up the 404 error. It didn't work. I'd probably have to run it from a local server to get that up. So if a page is broken, so if what the 404 error means is that normally when you get to a site that has a 404 error, I can show you 404 error. showacademy.com/gobbledygook. There's a 404 error. Yeah, so that's how 404 error works. You get brought to this page and it goes 404 mission control, we lost communication, repeat, we lost communication. It's loads of stuff like that has all that kind of fun stuff. What's the most fun I've come across? Can't remember. It's got like yeah. All right. So yeah. So that's a 404. So if you can't find the page, it doesn't just show you a broken page. It gives you that. Yeah. There's loads of these. You should actually. There's loads of great stuff with CodePen 404. Yeah. CodePen. Thank you for that, Samuel. Let's see. CodePen. Best of 404 errors. Let's see if we can find something good here. Yeah, so there's loads of 404 errors. So really the 404 errors is something as web designers, you should really have your fun with 404 errors, because what the 404 error means that you can literally do whatever you want. It's actually, because remember, when someone gets to a 404 error, it's normally because they've got a broken link. Yeah, so a lot of people we'll see some people mistype the wrong URL, and then they just get to the 404 error. But especially if you have a broken link or if something breaks on your site, you don't want to annoy your user, so you give them a bit of humor to rein them back in. Yeah, so that's actually not too bad. Let's see. That's actually kind of nice there. That little guy is swinging away. Let's see. I like this. And maybe just because I like Bill Murray. 404 is free advertising. Yeah, you could use it for that as well. Of course, you always provide a link back. Yeah. What's this? All right, let me just quickly go through here. Simulate. That's not great. You don't want that in 404. That's not good either, because it doesn't let me get back to my original page. So even though it's got all those nice graphics, it's keeping you entertained. To get back, I'm going to have to click back, or I'm going to have to go up and type a new URL. You don't want that out of a 404 error either. That's a nice spinning ball, but again, it doesn't accomplish the problem of bringing the user back to your site. So be very aware with your 404 errors. You want to bring them back to the index page, or you want to bring them back to someplace. I'll pull up that to see what that is. Boom, 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 boom. So I'll let that load up. And yes, so that's that. We got our Bootstrap template, and we got that template. That's perfect. And we got Browse Happy. We've covered Browse Happy. This has been built using the Bootstrap template. So what I'll do is I'll download that. I'll download the full handbook actually. That's what I want. And yep, we got our GoDaddy, got our ASDF, and that's pretty much everything. Yes. Do you know where that is, Brandon? That's the one I try and think of. The alien, the kind of the octopusy guy. It was. Sorry, Brandon says I came across a 404 area, a 404 error, with an alien and a spaceship on it on a planet, and it was kind of interactive. You moved your mouse and it moved your view. It's got that kind of parallax thing. Does anyone know where we would have seen that? Could that be Stack Overflow possibly? Stack Overflow is something that we probably all come across. That's pretty good as well. Yeah, I like that. I like that 404. You sent me that there. That's nice. Thank you for that, Louis. That's a nice 404 as well. Um, that's good. Except it needs to bring you back. Except they do need to have a link to bring you back to the index. A 404, like, it can make you laugh and everything, but I am still going to be annoyed if I have to go up there and click back, or if I have to go up to do that. Always give them an option to do something. Let me see. STA stackoverflow.com. Nope. See, that's a 404 because it doesn't bring you anywhere. Like, all of these will have it. Like if you, especially if you set up a oh, thank you. If you set up a WordPress site, the 404 error is actually just already included in there, and it doesn't actually take you away from anything. Yeah, that could work. Does anyone know which one I'm talking about, though? I'm sorry. We're actually kind of going well over time now. But let's just see. Best of 404 could be in here. Anyway, you'll be able to find these all yourself, and that's something that you should really. There he is. GitHub. Oh, of course, GitHub. This is the 404 I was looking for. this is This is not the web page you were looking for. I see you stand corrected there, sir. But yes, this is exactly what I was looking for. This is the one that I really liked. I really liked this when I first came here. It is quite fun. That's the one. That's the one exactly. The GitHub 404 is probably the one that I like the best, just simply for its parallax kind of mouse handling kind of thing. All right, guys. Well, listen. Do we have any more questions so far on this course? Because we're kind of over. We've gone 5 minutes over the end now as well. So I think I think this is a nice stopping point. So then next class, we're going to take all of that kind of stuff. We're going to take the planning process. And again, the next class is also going to go half an hour over. Just by default, it is going to go half an hour over as well, just to make sure we get everything done and to cover everything and just to cover the little bits that we missed in week 3. At this stage, the best thing for you guys to do would be, I'm going to stick up those things on Facebook as soon as possible. It will probably be, it's going to be late at night here in Ireland, but it will be up on your Shaw Academy dashboard by 7 p.m. tomorrow as well. By 7 p.m. tomorrow as well, so you'll be able to get them all there as well. And then what you should really do is start sketching out wireframes. Because we've now got the client brief, we've got all that kind of stuff. You can start sketching out wireframes and finding a color scheme. So you can either pick out the color scheme that you like, because don't forget, once we build this company page, once we do it, as always, I would like you to make the project your own, and I'll give you those images to use as well. Those images that I'm using, that's actually from Shutterstock. That's where I'm getting there. You actually have to pay for these. You have to have an account, and you have to be paying for these. So I wouldn't recommend going on there and buying these for your own projects just for the time being. But I want to be able to use images that I have a license to use to give to you guys. All right. Oh, and I'll take their 500 error as well. Yeah, I'd like to see their 500 error. Thank you for that, Brandon. The homepage. Yes, that stuff. That's Behance. Behance is a website. I'll show you. Behance. Behance. Behance is an online portfolio really for graphic designers, but it's great for inspiration. It's great to see what the trending stuff is, and it gives you a few insights into the world of graphic design as well. Yeah. How long will we have to make the site? Well, you guys will have as long as possible. We're going to try to build it as quickly as possible. We're going to try to put a few pages together and see how far we can get, and that we can get in the time we have. What I will do is I'll be So what we do in class won't be an accurate reflection of how you'll have to do it yourselves. Simply because I'm going to have, I'm going to be planning it for a few. I've already been planning it for a while now. So I'm going to try. So I'm going to have mine pretty much structured out in a way that I can build it for us to cram it into an hour and a half. But yeah, yeah. You'll just have to gauge how long it will actually take you to do it yourself. Can you do your own company? Of course you can. Of course you can, Mitchell. Of course you can. We'll discuss all that on Thursday, the full requirements, and we'll come out with a document. Like I said, I'll also show you a preview of a client brief. I'll show you a preview of some of my client briefs that I gave out to some of my previous clients. I'll just try to blur out some of the information there. All right. So, and I would like to just see that 500 error. Oh, that's nice as well. I really like this. What are they doing? Sorry, just before we go, let's just take a quick look underneath here. Just take a quick look. Parallax wallpaper. What are they doing to make this? Are they coding it themselves? I wonder. Parallax style. No style. Meta. I don't actually see any links to the outside, so they might be doing it themselves. I don't think. They could be very well doing it themselves. So there's their error.js. We'll have to take a look. Anyway, I know there's loads of stuff there's loads of parallax tools out there on the web. There actually is. So if you like that effect, this kind of stuff here, a lot of like Divi comes with that by default. But Paralex parallax effect. There we have that. So I don't want that parallax effect JS. There we have it. So it doesn't. Oh, guys, when you're navigating the web, as web designers, let's appreciate other people's projects. So whenever I come across a site like this, when you scroll on a Windows computer, you see this kind of jumping thing that it does, and you can fix that in WordPress by adding smooth scroll. But you should try to have this kind of thing when you're navigating someone's site and you're trying to appreciate or trying to analyze it. Try to view it as web designers, how they try to design it. This is kind of the stuff between web designers that when someone gives you a website and it's got this parallax effect, it is handy to click the middle button on your mouse if you're using a mouse, because it works fine with the trackpad, but it's nice whenever you're stuck with a mouse to really appreciate the parallax effect and appreciate all the work that people are putting into their sites. They'll never know, but it is nice. It is nice. So yeah, so there's loads of resources that you can add into your site. Hold and click the arrow. You can also click the middle button on your mouse there as well and just let it slowly scroll up. Anyway, guys, listen, absolutely fantastic, everyone out there. Great discussions coming in class. I can't wait to get started building our company webpage. What should I call it? Coral's Surf Shack. So we'll just abbreviate that as CSS come Thursday. So guys, listen, absolutely fantastic. Can't wait for Thursday. Have a very good morning, very good afternoon, very good evening, and a very good night, everybody.